Okay, so now we're in part number 2, where we're going to talk about the CD and the PWD command. So first, let's open a little terminal over here. We're going to have our lecture on the side, and we're going to open a terminal on the other side so that we can practice our stuff. So the first command we're going to talk about is PWD, which stands for print working directory or present working directory. This tells us where we are at all times in the file system. For example, you just open a terminal. You want to know where you are. PWD, enter, and notice that the output of this command is the absolute path of my current location. If we open a file manager one more time, notice that this is the same as this. Therefore, we know that inside our current location, all of these folders are located, right? We're going to keep this open over here, and we're going to open this on the side over here so that we can have a visual aid of the things that we're doing on the terminal. Now, the CD command stands for change directory, and it does exactly that. It changes your current working directory to whatever directory you specify. The formula for using this command is quite simple. CD and destination. So get in the taxi, tell it where you want to go. For example, I'm now inside my home directory. I want to go inside downloads. All I have to do is type CD and then downloads. Again, let's do it one more time. CD DOW, and then I press the tab key on my keyboard to autocomplete that word. This is very useful because tab autocompletion allows us to not make mistakes when we are typing directories and commands. If the particular word that you're trying to autocomplete does not autocomplete when you're using the tab key, either your command is wrong, the command doesn't support autocompletion, or the file doesn't exist. One of those three scenarios happen. Now, let's press enter over here. Notice that the command prompt changed a bit because it now tells me that I am inside the downloads folder. If I want confirmation, I can type PWD and it tells me the absolute path of where I want to be. What I did right now was that I literally just opened a file manager and click on downloads. I did the same on the terminal. CD is equivalent to literally double clicking and going inside a folder. The beauty of CD is that when we're working on the terminal, we can jump from place A to place C, B, D, and E whenever we want without having to do all this much clicking and navigating. Now, notice this over here. This is the absolute path of the downloads folder. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Let's continue. So, notice here that I'm using a relative path in this command. The reason why I'm using a relative path over here rather than typing the whole thing is because it will be unnecessary. Now, if I am already in here graphically, right? All I have to do is click on downloads to go to downloads. Well, the same thing applies on the terminal, and this is when relative paths are actually very useful. Because if you are already in a place and the next destination is literally right there inside that folder, you don't have to type the whole path starting at the root. You can just use a relative path. And it's called relative path because the folder that you want to reach is relative to your current location. It's located inside the folder where you're currently at. That's when we use relative path because there is no point on typing the whole thing if I can just start at my current location. But assume for a moment that I want to go to here, boot. See, this folder over here is not relative to my downloads folder at all. They are in two totally different places. Now, let's go back here to our little cheat sheet right here. I want to go graphically to themes. Sorry. So I'm inside the themes folder over here, right? Assume that I want to go here in the terminal. This is not relative. User is not relative to downloads. As you can see by the visual guide over here, I'm currently located in here. I want to jump all the way to here. My only option in this case is to use absolute path to go there because it's the only way that the CD command can find that folder. So I will type CD, again, start at the root, user, then continue down the line. I want to go to share, Notice I don't type the whole thing, to a couple of letters and then tab. And then, this is a good example. Now, I type TH and I press tab once, but nothing appeared. The reason is because there are multiple folders that start with the word TH. So I use double tap to see which of the folders are. And I know that there is one that starts with TH called themes, which is where I want to go. And there's one called thumbnails. So the moment I type THE, only one option was available, and a single tab on the keyboard auto-completed the path. I'm going to press enter over here, and notice how I went from this point over here to this point over here in a single shot. That's the basics of using the CD command. It's quite simple. CD and then where you want to go. What is tricky about the CD command is understanding the file system itself, comprehending the differences between absolute path and relative path. The only way to get this and understand it is to practice, practice, and practice. You must review and you must study. Otherwise, you're going to stay at the same place forever. This is one of the things most people get wrong about using the terminal. The fact that they don't spend time understanding the file system and these little concepts that I have introduced to you in video 1 and 2. Now, let's take a look at some more examples of the CD command. Perfect. Now, right now I am users share themes. I want to go to home. Notice that graphically, if I want to go home, I just click on the word home over here. Well, we can do that in the terminal as well, not by clicking, but by typing. If I type CD by itself, nothing given, no argument given, nothing, just CD, and I press enter, it takes me home. Whenever you want to go home in the terminal, type CD, press enter. That's not the only way to go home. We have other ways. For instance, the tilde character, as you can see in the presentation here, represents this, right? The tilde character is the same as that. It's the absolute path of your home directory. Let's repeat that one more time. The tilde character is the absolute path of your home directory. Now, I can type CD tilde and takes me home. For example, if I go one more time to user share themes, let's see, let's go to that one, and I want to go home, I can type CD by itself or the tilde character. Notice what happens when I press enter. I am back to home. You might say, Professor, if CD by itself takes me home, what is the point of the tilde character? I'll explain. Let's say, for example, that I want to go to this here, week reports. I want to go to this folder over here. If I were to do that on the terminal, let's make sure that we are in a different place, right? If I want to do that in the terminal, I would have to type the whole thing, right? I would have to do CD, home, my username, and then CIS 106, and then week reports, and enter. That's a lot of typing. This here can be shortened by using the tilde character replacing the beginning. For example, I am back in user share. I want to go to this folder. CD tilde eliminates this part of the path, and then I can continue. Enter. Which command is shorter, this one or this one? Obviously, this one. So this is a nice little shorthand that we can use whenever we want to reach something that we know is located inside our home directory. Okie dokie. Now, the next thing that I want to introduce is a concept of the present working directory, which is where you're currently at, but then there is something called old present working directory, which means at all times when you're working on the terminal, your computer keeps in memory two things. Where you're currently at, which is your present working directory, as you can see by PWD, and where you currently were, like where you were before you changed directories to that, right? So let's see if we can open, yep, we can open a little text editor over here. Okay, so my current working directory is this one over here. Now let's say that I want to go to, again, CD, proc pressure. I went to that directory. Now my current working directory is no longer this, but this value isn't completely lost. As a matter of fact, this value is stored in your computer as your old PWD, your old present working directory. And we can jump between these two folders using a shortcut with the CD command. So when I type CD hyphen and I press enter, notice that I go back to my previous working directory and I jump between 2 points in the file system without doing a lot of typing. This is very useful when you're working with 2 directories and you want to jump back and forth, right? Now, my old current working directory would be this one over here. Now I'm gonna play around moving between one and the other. CD hyphen takes me to proc pressure. And at this point, this becomes my present working directory, and this becomes my old present working directory. Again, if you do it one more time, notice that the relationship gets shipped, right? It gets swift, it gets changed. When this breaks, well, let's say that I'm going to choose a different directory now. I'm going to go CD etc. Now, my old present working directory becomes this one over here, and my current working directory is this one over here. If I type CD hyphen, I go back to weak reports. If I type CD hyphen, I go back to etc. Again, this is you working with 2 directories that are in 2 totally different places and moving back and forth. This value here, this is called an environment variable. It stores whatever was your previous working directory before you ran the new CD command. This is in your final. Please practice it. Now, with that explanation, I'm going to move along to the next video, which we're going to do a little practice using the CD command.